Today, I'm going to tell you the story of a scientist, but this won't be a classic biography. Because the story of Nikola Tesla is not just about inventions, patents, or laboratories. It is a story where genius, loneliness, belief, obsession, vision, and tragedy are all intertwined. Nikola Tesla was born on July 10, 1856, in the village of Smiljan, which was then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and is today located in Croatia. His family was ethnically Serbian. His father, Milutin Tesla, was a priest in the Serbian Orthodox Church. His mother, Đuka Mandić, had no formal education, yet she possessed remarkable mechanical intelligence and could design and build household tools. Years later, Tesla would say, "I inherited my inventive ability from my mother." Tesla's childhood was overshadowed by a dramatic tragedy. His older brother, Dane Tesla, died in a horse riding accident. The family suffered a deep trauma. Some historians suggest that Dane had been seen as the more gifted child, and that Nikola grew up under that shadow. This may have intensified both his perfectionism and his lifelong need to prove himself. From an early age, Tesla began displaying unusual traits. He described experiencing intense flashes of light and extraordinarily vivid mental images. These images were so powerful that at times it became difficult to distinguish them from reality. However, Tesla transformed what could have been a weakness into a tool. He would construct his inventions entirely in his mind, operate them, test them, and perfect them mentally, only building them physically once they were completely refined. This method became the foundation of his creative process. He is often described as having a photographic memory. He could memorize long texts and retain complex mathematical tables in his mind. He spoke several languages fluently: German, English, French, Italian, and multiple Slavic languages. Yet his personality was far from ordinary. He was extremely sensitive about cleanliness. He had a fixation on certain numbers, especially the number 3. He reportedly walked around a building 3 times before entering. He had a strong aversion to pearl earrings. He disliked shaking hands. Some modern biographers suggest he may have exhibited obsessive-compulsive traits and, from a contemporary perspective, might be viewed through the lens of neurodiversity. However, no formal diagnosis was ever made. At a young age, he decided to become an engineer and enrolled at Graz University of Technology in 1875, where he studied electrical engineering. When he examined the Gramme dynamo, a question formed in his mind. What if alternating current could be used instead of direct current? At the time, the electrical world was dominated by direct current systems. However, direct current was inefficient over long distances. Tesla believed that by using high voltage and low current, energy could be transmitted across great distances with minimal loss. But his academic life was unstable. He developed a gambling addiction. He lost his tuition money. He had to ask his family for financial support. Eventually, he left university without completing his degree. This marked one of the first major turning points and setbacks in his life. In 1881, he moved to Budapest and began working for a telephone company. One evening, while walking in a city park at sunset, something extraordinary happened. Suddenly, the principle of the rotating magnetic field became clear in his mind. He picked up a stick and drew the diagram in the dirt. This was the conceptual birth of the polyphase alternating current motor, the ancestor of the electric motors we use today. After leaving Graz University, Tesla tried to pull himself together and continue his education where he had left off at Charles Ferdinand University. However, the difficulties in his life resurfaced once again, and his father passed away. After this deeply sorrowful event, Tesla's dream of returning to complete his education collapsed. But he never stopped dreaming. In 1882, Tesla began working in Paris for the Continental Edison Company. A year later, in 1883, when he was assigned to Strasbourg, he would return home after long working hours and secretly continue experimenting. It was there, in his spare time, that he built the first working model of his induction motor. In 1884, with only 4 cents in his pocket, a few of his own poems, and calculations for a flying machine, Tesla sailed to New York. After arriving in New York in 1884, Nikola Tesla was hired as an engineer at Thomas Edison's Manhattan headquarters. For about a year, Tesla worked tirelessly and impressed Edison with his discipline and technical skill. One day, Edison reportedly promised him $50,000 if he could redesign and improve his direct current dynamos. After months of intense work, Tesla completed the improvements and asked for the promised payment. Edison allegedly told him it had been a joke. That was the breaking point. They parted ways. After leaving Edison, Tesla struggled financially in America. He took on various jobs just to survive. At one point, he even worked digging ditches, including work connected to projects associated with Western Union. Yet even during those difficult days, his mind was constantly occupied with inventions and ambitious ideas. In May 1888, a turning point came. George Westinghouse, president of Westinghouse Electric in Pittsburgh, purchased the patent rights to Tesla's polyphase alternating current system, a system that included AC dynamos, transformers, and motors. This marked the true beginning of the large-scale implementation of alternating current. However, Tesla's work in electricity represented only one side of his extraordinarily fertile mind. Before the turn of the 20th century, he invented a powerful coil capable of generating extremely high voltages and frequencies. This device, later known as the Tesla coil, led to the development of new forms of lighting such as neon and fluorescent lamps, and contributed to early research into X-rays. Tesla also discovered that these coils could transmit and receive radio signals, laying groundwork for wireless communication. He further observed that when the Tesla coil was tuned to a specific frequency, incoming electrical energy could be dramatically amplified through resonance. With this principle in mind, he prepared to send a signal across New York. But tragedy struck. A fire broke out in his laboratory building, and his lab was reduced to ashes, destroying years of work and research. It is remarkable to remember that Tesla had originally conceptualized the rotating magnetic field and an AC motor system while still a university student. He later refined this invention into what would become the dominant power system of the 20th century, the alternating current AC electrical system, which remains the global standard to this day. Later, when Tesla proposed his idea of a wireless world system to J.P. Morgan, he began working seriously on wireless transmission of energy and communication. Impressed by the concept, Morgan invested $150,000 to fund the construction of a massive transmission tower. Tesla hired the famous architect Stanford White from the firm McKim, Mead and White to design it. In 1901, White began work on what would become known as the Wardenclyffe Tower. However, before the project could be completed, it became clear that Tesla's funds would not be sufficient. The tower was never fully realized and eventually became an abandoned structure. For Tesla, this represented one of the greatest personal and professional collapses of his life. After this failure, he became increasingly obsessive and more sensitive to sound and environmental stimuli. The idea of using flowing water's potential and kinetic energy and converting it into mechanical power had existed for centuries. But in the late 1800s, new developments in electrical engineering made it possible to use that mechanical energy to generate electricity efficiently. Tesla, who had dreamed of harnessing Niagara Falls since childhood, played a central role in designing one of the first large-scale AC hydroelectric power plants in the United States at Niagara Falls in 1895. After 5 years of doubt, financial instability, and technical challenges, the project neared completion. Tesla himself never doubted the outcome, but many investors were uncertain whether the system would actually function as intended. Ultimately, Tesla and George Westinghouse successfully established the hydroelectric plant at Niagara Falls, effectively launching the large-scale electrification of the modern world. Within a few years, the number of generators at Niagara Falls reached 10, exactly as planned. Electric power lines stretched outward, energizing cities and industries and astonishing the nation. Many investors hoped to gain control over the United States' hydroelectric power resources, creating intense industrial competition. Yet Tesla's system proved decisive. Tesla secured patents for AC motors and power systems, inventions often described as the most valuable technological advancements since the telephone. Later, when Westinghouse faced severe financial difficulties and the company risked collapse, he asked Tesla to release him from the royalty agreement tied to the patents. Grateful to the man who had believed in him and never attempted to exploit him, Tesla agreed. By relinquishing those royalties, he sacrificed what could have made him one of the wealthiest men in the world. In 1931, on his 75th birthday, Tesla's achievements were featured on the cover of Time magazine. Yet, despite his immense contributions to humanity and his vast intellectual legacy, he did not even possess enough money to buy his own home. He spent his final years living in hotel rooms, financially supported in part by Westinghouse. In 1943, Nikola Tesla was found dead in debt in his hotel room in New York City. A man who had helped power the modern world, yet who died almost alone and nearly forgotten.